very good evening and welcome to this edition of the Fourth Estate. Charles Mongu Shampagi. We'll continue our journey discussing the politics of the country and looking at the two major political parties, the National Resistance Movement and the Forum for Democratic Change, whose primaries process are in high gear. In the NRM, former Secretary General Amama Mbabazi is set to resume his consultations, which were blocked by the police. From what we understand now is that he's been allowed, he will be able to go ahead with his consultations. He declined to pick nomination forms, questioning the regulations under which the party primaries will be held for both the position of party chairman and that of flag bearer. In the Forum for Democratic Change, campaigns or consultations for the party's flag to the 2016 elections are already ongoing. Both the two candidates, Dr. Kizza Besigye, the founding president, and Mugisha Muntu, who succeeded him, are busy mobilizing FDC supporters to see whom those FDC delegates will send. But these have been conducted almost like rallies. We saw in Entebbe the other day, there was one in Mukono today, and in other places. What's going on? We have two members, activists from both political parties. One is acting deputy spokesperson, and that is Francis Mwizuche. Francis, very nice to have you.
Thank you.
Francis is known more for being an activist, especially on the side of Dr. Besigye. Wherever Besigye has been, he's been with him, but he comes from Buhweju. And you've contested there, haven't you contested?
I have.
Buhweju. We also have a man from Bushenyi, Dennis Twahika.
Yes.
Dennis, very nice to have you.
Nice to have you.
We had you at the beginning of this controversy between Museveni and Mbabazi.
Yes, sir.
And you caused a bit of ruckus, at least judging by the feedback we got from our viewers, discussing the Mbabazi candidature, which hadn't been at that time.
Thank you.
Dennis also contested for the Bushenyi municipality seat, and he is within the structures of the National Resistance Movement in Bushenyi. And my colleague, Chris Obore. Chris, it ended, and I can see you're still gabbed like...
You know, those who don't fast consistently add some more days.
So you're inconsistent in your fasting.
Yes. But you should acknowledge that the two are also aspiring members of parliament. And I would really particularly want to see Mujiche in parliament. And Dennis is a very deep guy. I disagree with him on certain things, but...
Can you leave that judgment to our viewers?
No.
And I'm reluctant to talk about their candidature.
What is wrong
because
with
I'm
that?
receiving phone calls. Well, I don't put this show together.
Yes.
The producer does. And I'm receiving phone calls from everybody who wants to contest for every position. The other day I met the youth who mobilized that demonstration in Gulu against Amama Mbabazi, where they carried the coffin. And he said, can we discuss? I need to come on Fourth Estate. I said, what do you want to talk about? You did your demonstration, it was covered in the news. What else? This season is very critical.
Yeah, it doesn't do all the fact that Mujiche is a very capable man to lead Buhweju. And Dennis is a very intelligent fellow.
Chris, let me start with you actually.
Why when you have our guests here? Let's start with Dennis.
Let me start
I
with you.
I want to test the
Let me start with you, Chris.
Compliment.
To give us the broad perspective on the journey towards party primaries in the National Resistance Movement, the controversy is about regulations and the fees being paid. In the FDC, of course, they've been moving on. They've been fairly organized so far, and the campaign has been largely civil so far. Is this a process that you see is likely to deliver genuine competition going into the actual home run, which is the nominations organized by the Electoral Commission?
Like I've said, what's happening today has long-term benefits. In the short term, this is going to be full of anger, bitterness, maneuver, propaganda, counter-propaganda. That will look like the country is going in the wrong direction. But in the long term, these processes are shaping what politics would want in the future. Especially when they are young players like Francis and Dennis, I see this process as very helpful in 10, 15 years to come. But right now it is so heated because there have been a lot of wrongs, political wrongs previously, and there's been a build-up. There's been pent-up anger from within the opposition. Civil society has had no space. In the NRM now, things are beginning. The center is no longer holding. and there is a jostling. That jostling, at the end of the day, will arrive at stability. Because now when after fight...
The jostling might end up wrecking the whole institution.
You see, always after a fight, there is a stage of catharsis where you feel, every cock has to gain strength. And that is the point when consensus can be brokered. So we need stable institutions like the church to be strong now. We need the civil society to actually begin to position themselves to be strong now, because these motions, okay, that are happening are good for the political actors. It will wipe out those who will not survive, but force alone at the end of the day will not yield. Consensus has a place in this politics. So I see light at the end of the tunnel, but the long run.
Dennis.
When it comes to the issues of fees and what, that's also very positive development. In fact, as I was debating Dennis, I don't even see why Ahmad Mbabazi is beginning to use the issue of fees as very important. Because for a long time, we have complained about funding of political parties. You know, the opposition could not be funded because the NRM was spilling space for them. Funding opposition tantamount to persecution, no tender, no nothing. And we have been questioning NRM. Where is your account? Where do you make your money? The other day they have held a fundraising, they got 16 billion. Now, if they want...
You can count the contributors, that's 16 billion of your fingers.
Of course, it doesn't matter. But if they can contribute and allow case-based jobs to fundraise and get, that will be positive. Now, to question why people are being charged the fees, you know, it is healthy for a democracy at the end of the day. You remove political hecklers from participation. You know, every party, a commitment should be from your own members. And the method you use to collect money from your members, it doesn't matter. If you feel NRM is charging you more money, there is FDC.
Thank you.
Which is giving cards for free.
Let me turn the question over to Dennis. Dennis.
Yes, sir.
The battle within the national resistance movement, now again active, Plot 10, Chadondo Road,
Yes.
seems to me to be a battle that is looking for outright winners and complete losers. What are the chances that the fight, especially between former Secretary General Mama Mbabazi and chairman of the party, Yoweri Museveni, is likely to end up increasing consensus as Obore suggests, or actually breaking the party apart?
It will depend on how we play our politics, especially in primaries and in the entire nomination process. So I want to agree with Chris and then disagree with him a bit. When he talks of nomination fees, that it is heresy, fine, it is heresy, but it depends on the motive of the one who is levying that fee. Because when you are telling me that you are raising money for the party, then why didn't you sell membership cards? Because me, I agree that there is a burden on the party as far as raising enough money to fund these activities. But you would have spread the burden through selling of membership cards. But you give our parents free cards. Then you levy exorbitant fees in the form of nominations on their children, whom they have educated, maybe at a certain point, who want actually to attain leadership.
But I think where I might tend to agree with Chris is in one process, giving free membership cards to those parents is about increasing
the support base.
The support base.
Fine.
Charging a nomination fee, he called it eliminating political hecklers from participating in the political class.
You see, let me tell you, when you charge 2 million or 10 or 5, that's not targeting the hecklers. You're not targeting hecklers. You are that is open exclusion. Mr. Chris, I want to agree. I want you to look back and see. These people are seated at Chadondo now. 5 years ago, few had the capacity even to raise 1 million. When Mbabazi was the Secretary General, all those people with rootless existence, very many actually in cabinet, in parliament, actually attained leadership and they are actually making their contribution when he was a Secretary General. But I want to tell you, there is open exclusion at Chadondo. So we are not saying that people don't have money, they should not pay a fee. But why do you really raise a fee from 100,000 to 2.5? For example, verification of papers. Papers were used to be verified at 20,000, 40, but now it is 0.5. There is a connivance between Chadondo and National Council for Higher Education. To me, I'm really not here crying or complaining, but the motive behind this, maybe, in my opinion, is that extension of the solo candidature now being actually granted to the MPs, because some of the MPs who are actually in parliament now know that there are those opponents of theirs who will not be able to raise 2 million to participate in the primary.
But isn't that the reason that has bastardized our politics, that you get all sorts of characters, they end up in parliament or in leadership positions, and they can't perform their leadership functions because they're coming from such a weak base?
No, you see, let me tell you, the money is not a basis, cannot be used as a basis for choosing who has the capacity to read or not.
No, the idea, Dennis, is, Chris, I hope I'll be speaking what will be bringing
not money alone, no.
I would imagine that previously, when the NRA, for example, was in the bush,
yes,
it derived its resources from fundraising. People gave their goats, their chickens. Even when priests still visit those villages, they take them eggs. Ideally, a candidate should not be contesting on the strength of their own money, but on selling the idea that they can be good leaders and the people support them. And I do not think that people in Bushenyi municipality can fail to raise for you 2 million shillings to contest as a candidate.
No. You want me to raise, to call a fundraising to raise 2 million? From my supporters to come and take
You see, Charles, we need to grow in Mujicha.
No.
Let me explain.
I better go in as an independent for people to vote me. I can't do that.
Dennis.
That one is out.
Dennis, you may have an issue of the amount of money levied, the motive they are in, but what I'm arguing here is a principle.
Fine.
You see, belonging to a political party should be a matter of conviction. And when you are convinced about the ideology of a political party, you actually fund that party. Africa is suffering neocolonialism because we have tended to depend on donors whose agenda we don't know. The civil society, as you see, is suffering from the same. Many civil society organizations want to do things that benefit Uganda. But you find the source of funding limits their ability because they come with the conditions. Many political parties in Africa depend on other political parties elsewhere for funding. That comes with it is not a benevolent giving. Those who fund will always have their motivation. Now, if our own parties locally begin to realize that we need to draw from our support base funding to run our activities, that is positive.
Okay.
And Charles, before you even talk about, if we are convinced about NRM, for instance, and NRM is saying, this is our handicap, and this is the money we want you to charge, you get convinced to pay. And then the point of exclusion then is a matter you then to debate. How many people, for instance, now, for judge exclusion, how many people are picking those cards? Do you find positions which are felt vacant because there's no one able to pay? Then you would say, now look, the signals we are getting are that our members can't afford this. But NRM is full. Secondly, if the fee is prohibitive, how many of those are shunning to pick NRM forms and are running to pick FDC forms? You would say, look here, because of this fee, we are losing support. If there is an avalanche of people going to pick, please, I encourage that.
Okay.
The only thing we should be looking at is how do you use the money?
My brother.
Yes. I don't want us to get lost on the money on the money issue.
One point,
yes.
sir. You see, when I speak like this, I don't say that I cannot raise 2 million. No, I can. But I'm looking at a situation where you deliberately distribute free cards because you want to extend the base, as we agreed. But then you raise all of a sudden money. You have actually looked at 2 million. There is 200,000 for a cancer. Then you have 10,000 and so there is a
LOC one is 10,000.
No. Cancer, that is 200,000. I want to tell you, my brother, there is a time when President Museveni was asked and requested by a certain section of NRM and even Ugandans that for one to be an LC3 chairperson, at least let's have it at senior 4 level. But I want to tell you, President Museveni judged wisely and said, please, when you look around in the entire country, there are very few people who have completed senior 4. And those who want to emerge are actually in 40s, 50s. They never actually accessed education at that time when they had instability. And I want to tell you, in one or another, that
held the ground.
That held the ground.
Thank you.
So you don't just need to rush into money or in the name of
I'll come back to the other point in a moment. You're not charging for your candidates, are you, in FDC? You didn't charge them to get nominated?
Well, we have charged the presidential candidates.
How much are you charging?
3.5 million shillings.
Mm-hmm.
And to us, that is a fair fee.
Mm-hmm.
But you see, Ugandans must also appreciate that parties, just like religious denominations, institutions, they survive because of the believers. The Catholic Church survives because of its people. So you don't have the Catholic Church give people money. No? You will not buy me a rosary, for example. You will not buy, even in Islam, they will not buy him, what are those hats of yours? Those hats you put on.
Muslim.
No, I'm just giving an example.
Yes, yes.
You look right.
Yeah, like he looks, yes.
I'm an Oga, I'm expecting oil.
So you don't do that. But even then, if you must charge, then it must be fair. You know, in Uganda now we have classes. And I can tell you, whether it is in education or in politics, there is a deliberate move to have a certain class of people access education and to have a certain class of people fail to access it. So you have education for the rich. You have schools for the rich, you have schools for the poor. Now, the poverty in Uganda to me is deliberate. That you have a certain class of people who will access education, who will have money, and then they will be leaders.
And then they will afford the 2 million to become members of parliament, or 10 million to become president.
And the others will be the red. I see that happening in this country.
Okay. Thank you. Let me go back to the question of I put to Dennis about whether the party will retain cohesion after the elections, after the internal primaries. Because what we see today, we do not know yet whether Amama Mbabazi will make it to Nambole. If he makes it, whether he will come out strong and shake hands with President Yoweri Museveni and the support line, the supporters along the line. How is this likely to impact your party?
You see, I don't see cohesion there. It won't be. One, when you trace the motive of the Chankwan's people, the resolution, this was actually, that whole thing was passed in a bad phase. And I think this is my second time to say it openly on this national and international TV, the NTV. Now, when that thing they call an opinion, which was later funded.
Of members of the caucus?
Yes, it was funded. And it was actually the first legality that the police protected. Because it actually contravened our section 39 of NRM party constitution. Because that section stipulates on how candidates are chosen in the party. But a caucus, which is not even a policy organ of the party, went and overthrew the party processes.
The official position is, without taking us into
let me show you really.
Yes, the official position is, according to Tango Doi, the chairman of the Electoral Commission, the party caucus is not known in the NRM structures. And the position is, Tango Doi said the other day, that he does not know anything about sole candidate.
I agree with him. But the psychological impact that thing has put on the member of the NRM membership is visible. Because after Chankwan's, certain sections were funded to go and meet party leaders at the district level. And the mission was to make sure that that resolution was supported. And some people were actually given, and even some hands were raised and everything. And it actually even pushed, it was even pushed further into the delegates conference. In fact, it collapsed, it partly collapsed in the SEC and even NEC and delegates conference. But the psychological mindset of the NRM membership in the country is that there is already a candidate for NRM. So the Tang Doi's statement cannot wash away that psychological, although that psychological mindset, although legally the solo candidate does not hold. But politics is about the mind, most especially when it comes to numbers. So now, when that thing emerged, two positions actually tended to emerge, of those who think that Mbabazi should be allowed to contest and those who think that he shouldn't. Now, that now narrows the space within our competition in the party. Now, it brought in the state now to support the Chankwan's resolutions that the police actually is now on the side of those who believe that there shouldn't be anybody contesting with the president.
I think those positions have since changed, Dennis.
No, wait.
From our last discussion here, from the last time we had the discussion here,
it has not.
There seems to a lot of water has passed under the bridge.
It has not. It has not. My brother, as I talk now, when you look at me, Twaika Dennis talking now, if I go to contest in Bushenyi Shaka municipality as I'm going, I will be targeted. I'm being targeted as a Mbaba's person, not NRM, by the way. You become Mbaba's first, then NRM next. Then they will say, Mwangushi Mpaji is supports Museveni. Now you wonder...
I've been hearing things, reemergence of words like NRM Mufunguro and NRM Nkomba.
Most likely.
Yes, I've heard words like that. But let's take a break.
And you think we are going to come out to a coherent force? In my opinion, we need to change.
After a short commercial break, and we'll start with Francis Mwizuche to tell us about whether the FDC will remain as a cohesive party after the party primaries. We'll be right back. You're still watching The Fourth Estate on NTV and with Dennis Twahika from Bushenyi and Francis Mwizuche. Dennis is NRM and Francis Mwizuche is from the Forum for Democratic Change. We're discussing the processes of the primaries within the major political parties, the National Resistance Movement, NRM, and the Forum for Democratic Change. How will they impact the general election? Francis, let me turn to you. One, you had a point to conclude about payment of nomination fees, which I cut you off before you could conclude. And number two is the process within the FDC. The last time you had a major contestation for the flag bearer of the party between Mugisha Muntu and Kizza Besigye, the party didn't remain very cohesive. Then you had Besigye exiting in 2012 and the contest to replace him between Andala Mafabi and Mugisha Muntu almost split the party. Right in the middle. Now, this third round between Besigye and Muntu, is it likely to leave that party together?
Well, one, I think FDC is moving on the right direction. You realize I supported General Muntu for party presidency. I am not supporting Dr. Besigye. And then I was very clear. I don't want to tell you reasons why then, but you'll find people who supported Nandara are supporting Dr. Besigye. You find people who supported General Muntu are now with Dr. Besigye. And to me, really, that is a good direction.
There are also people who supported Dr. Besigye before now supporting
Yes,
Muntu.
And to me, that's a good direction. But two, it shows you that FDC is a competitive party. People can compete. We allow competition. We don't have solo candidature like I've heard people talk about. By the way, the solo candidature thing is not just about NRM. They had brought it in so that it becomes a national thing. That's why you don't want to allow Mbabazi to go and consult. You don't want Besigye to campaign. You don't want Muntu to go and campaign. So that because there is already a candidate. And that's why police was really convinced that they shouldn't allow us to campaign. But we had to, like we've already struggled, we had to struggle for this space. if you saw the members that surrounded Naja Nankumbi on the day of nominating Dr. Besigye, then you ask yourself.
And those young man who got...
yes, and you know, Dr. Besigye was not even around. But people are telling, you know, security was saying, you see, the nomination of Dr. Besigye is a security concern. Then we said, how? So you have a police that is partisan. You have institutions right off from the VISO, the PISO, the GISO, the DISO that are working for the political party.
So VISO is Village Internal Security Officer.
Yes. Yeah.
PISO is Parish Internal Security Officer.
Yes.
Then
the
GISO is Gombora.
Yes, yes.
Gombora Internal Security Officer. Then you have a DISO.
Yes.
Is there a CISO somewhere? A county in...
So you have all these working for NRM. So really, I think it's even unfair for us to say that NRM is a political party. It's not.
No, but Francis, so, I know you have invested a lot of your activism in life discussing NRM. The question now is internal to FDC. And
yes,
the question I put to you was that previous attempts at internal contestation within the FDC have left the party divided.
Yes.
How will the current run?
And I'm telling you that Dr. Besigye and General Muntu have contested before. And they came out of that election, and the party, as a party really, we remained together. This is not the first time. This is the third time. I know Dr. Besigye. I've worked with him for some time. I have worked with General Muntu, and I know that these two good leaders of FDC will not allow their supporters to go away you're suggesting. So I want to state, because I'm really clear about this, that after 2nd September, FDC is going to be stronger. Because an individual can win, it's like a team. An individual scores, but the team wins. To FDC, FDC is like a team. FDC will win, whether it is Besigye who has won, or it is General Muntu. And
Chris, do you see that as a possibility happening, especially given the previous history of FDC's internal elections?
Actually, the previous history attests to the facts he's telling you. There is no absence of conflict in FDC. Muntu, Besigye standing is actually a conflict, and a deeper one at that. But the strength of FDC that I don't see in NRM is that they have a group of people who are in the background, who are able to mediate conflict. And actually, the death of Sam Njuba robbed FDC of a pillar. There is Ruzindana. He's not up to power.
He's actually retired from politics.
He's not up to power.
He says yes.
But he stays the cause. You know, political organizations must always have those mediators, what we call consensus builders. Besigye and Muntu can decide to flare, but there will be a body that brings them to order. And consensus is arrived at. It has been proven before. Nandala Muntu contest, you saw, it was very, very angry. The behavior of the FDC parliamentarians some time back is not the same as today. There's a time the MPs felt they are the party, and those other people are not anything. But it is changing, because they are building mechanisms of that resolution. So I'm not so much worried. There will be, of course, a month or two of feeling bad, whoever has lost, but they will actually manage the process. That means we need to have supra-party institutions that are able to bring political actors to order. And the country lacks all that across the board. And that is where the country is having problems. So you find politicians behaving like the country is them and no one else. There should be those institutions that are able to stabilize the political actors. We don't have them. So the religious leaders need to up their game. The civil society activists need actually to be on the alert to see the signals that this is going to stray the country and bring the actors to board.
Chris, have you read through the NGO amendment bill that the Minister of Internal Affairs is trying to push through?
That is what should be resisted. And all of that again brings you back to party funding. The government is suspicious of NGOs because the NGOs derive their funding from Good Samaritans who fund them. Now government thinks every NGO gets money from wrong elements. That validates my earlier point, that I need a country where if anti-corruption coalition needs to help us fight corruption, we come out and say, Aku, Sise Kagaba, have the money. we donate our 1,000, 2,000, go and look for the corrupt. But if you leave anti-corruption coalition exposed to writing proposals, you never know the motive of the other people. Then we want them to work at our speed without us funding them. If you believe in FDC, please stop talking. Give your 100 coin. Give your 2,000 to FDC. Support them, then hold them accountable.
And if you believe in NRM?
If you believe in NRM, you shouldn't be thinking that 20 million for a presidential candidate is a lot of money. If you can't afford 20 million in NRM as a presidential candidate, you have no place in Uganda's politics then. So that's what I'm saying. The principle of party funding is critical to me. Because
instead of waiting for the president to carry the money to you,
exactly, take the money
you're an
there.
NRM supporter.
Take the money there.
Okay.
Now, the trouble NRM have been doing, we have been saying...
Both Dennis and Francis itching to come in. Let me start with Francis and then come to you, Dennis.
I just wanted to add that the past mistakes, we have learned from them. And you realize, for example, that since after that election, you have now Nandara Mafabi coming on board as a Secretary General. You have Ekanya, who was also a candidate then, coming on board as a Treasurer General. Now you're going to have Dr. Wesije come on board as, because really from what I gather, Dr. Wesije is going to become the flag bearer, and you have General Muntu.
Is that because you support Dr. Besigye?
No, I'm saying from what I gather really, not just because I support him. Yes, I support him, but not just because I support him. From what I gather, then you have General Muntu, the party president. That is really a cohesive party. So you really cannot talk about a repeat of what happened, yet you see FDC galvanizing. You see FDC coming, we are coming together. That you have now Nandara on board, you have Ekanya on board, you have Dr. Wesije on board, you have Muntu, and we are working as a team. So to me, really...
You have Nabila potentially drifting, you have Major Baramera Ranga gone completely.
Where? I don't
but there are many living in Biriga coming to lead FDC. Where was he before?
Actually, more people are coming on board. If you because now you're talking about a one Ruranga or a Nabira.
Nabila hasn't left, but she was.
And as of now, I know Nabira is an FDC member, a woman member of Parliament for Kampala. She has not written to us that she's going anywhere. I don't believe she's going anywhere because...
No, she's not happy within the party.
Well, you can't be happy all the time, but I'm sure at some stage she will come back on board and operate as usual.
Dennis,
yes, sir.
You guys are being pushed to join opposition parties from your party, the NRM.
Oh, I don't.
By what you said, you said that if you got contest in Bushenyi Shaka municipality, they will deploy against you because you... Not just because you're a candidate or an opposition person, but because you're supporting Babazi. Yes. And the tendency seems to suggest that you're being pushed to speak and act like the opposition and get out of the party. And, will you remain within the NRM?
Yes, let me tell you. There are two things here. People don't understand maybe these things. Some of us, when we are joining political activism, we hit our head. Because when you are not serious, you can be easily compromised and fail to follow the ideological and historical development of what you belong to. There are people who just came in wholesale, they wanted to make a lot of money, but now they are ideologically stuck. You cannot even bring them here to make any statement as far as the internal and the external contradictions are concerned now. But let me actually make you this point. Mwezuchi, I disagree with my brother Mwezuchi. I never wanted to get into FDC. When he made the statement, but it was really not his entire presentation, that NRM is not a party. No, NRM is a party. You see, the only difference between NRM and FDC is that those who are holding state power are not fighting to go and contest in FDC to be legitimized as members in 2016. They are the very people who are controlling the instruments of cohesion. So there is now a confrontation between NRM party and the NRM state. So, in fact,
NRM is both a state and a party?
Yes. So what we are fighting... How does that work?
You're a political scientist. You explain that to us, our viewers.
What we are actually fighting now is their transition. A transition from a state to a party. NRM is fighting to transit from that fusion to itself. Now, the state is...
And you're just validating what Mr. said.
No,
you're trying to become a party now because...
No, let me tell you. It is a party which has actually... the weight of the state is seated on NRM more than FDC. Because you can see, I don't see the police working. In fact, the NRM the NRM membership, the youth membership now, are more suffering in the hands of the police than FDC.
Then, Dennis Twahika, would you have said the same words when you're chairman of the NRM in Makerere?
Yes.
Just a few years ago?
Yes.
No, look.
Yes.
You're saying the weight of the state is sitting on NRM, the party.
Yes.
Muziche will tell you, and other Ugandans will tell you, Ugandans are suffering because the state is carrying NRM.
No.
Yes. I don't know, Chris, who's sitting on
Because I agree. You see, let me tell you. That's why I'm here to respect everyone's position. My position is this. NRM, Muziche, the one who's saying that, is not a party. Me, Twahika Dennis, I've never belonged to, I've never worked for, in fact, for the government in the capacity of being an RDC, of being, but I've been an NRM mobilizer, the party mobilizer. The party mobilizer. In other words, the transition from the NRM government and the state to the party has been ongoing, only that it is now being stifled. We had actually built that consensus.
For as long as you were comfortable.
No.
Dennis,
I've never.
You and the people you support, like the Honorable Mama Mbabas and the others, for as long as you're comfortable with the state shouldering or carrying on its back the organization called NRM,
yes,
it was okay.
No.
Now that you want, you realize at some stage, and I will pass this on to Chris, you realize at some stage that it was important that NRM, the political organization, built itself and detached itself from the state.
Yes.
It would have helped better because you wouldn't be debating all these Chankwanza resolutions and others. Competition internally would be easy.
Yes.
Like CCM has done in Tanzania, they have selected a flag bearer from 45 candidates.
Yes.
They selected one flag bearer. Now, the NRM cannot even afford to create space for two people to contest for one position in the party.
I think around me, my brother, to make this point,
can you pick this up after a short commercial break?
Yes.
I'll pick it up with Chris when we come back on who is responsible for what and what, and then we'll be discussing exactly how this helps the process of the general election. We'll be right back. Welcome to the last segment of tonight's Fourth Estate, and we have an activist from the National Resistance Movement, Dennis Twahika. He's within the structures at the district level in Bushenyi. Was a candidate in 2011. You lost in the primaries, and he intends to be a candidate again in 2015, 2016. Francis Mwizuche is from the Forum for Democratic Change, was a candidate for Buhweju, and I think intends to contest again in Buhweju. But this is not to say that we bring candidates to provide it.
MP.
Yeah?
Alternative.
I hear people introducing themselves as honorable before.
No, just alternative.
Chris, let me allow him to finish his point. The major criticism to the NRM is for as long as you could carry caucus meetings, delegates conferences to State House in Entebbe, hold your meetings and nobody knows who has facilitated the process, it was okay. Now, Chris started with the point, the party is trying to charge money so that it can have resources to fund those who emerge as candidates and also run the party secretariat. You are saying it's not the right thing. So the relationship between your party and the state is actually, it endangers the party more than an internal competition between Amama Mbabazi and Museveni, doesn't it?
You see, I am not really against the idea of charging money. I'm not against it. How can, then if that...
You are comfortable with the fusion between NRM,
No, I am not against the idea of charging money. I'm not against the idea. The party must really charge its own, must raise its own revenue. I really support that. But the motive, where you distribute free cards, and you raise to a level that has not been, that is unprecedented in the history of that party. Maybe, okay, let's agree with that, because
what fear are you against most?
I'm really looking at the entire, our membership. Our membership, 200,000.
For a councillor?
It is too much in the countryside. It is too much. You see, the problem here, the only difference between me and Mwambusia maybe and my brother Chris is that they are not in the water swimming. But those who are swimming in the water, they will tell you that there is a very big there is
30 years of consistent prosperity.
Maybe you
2000
will talk
prosperity
about,
for all.
Do you know how much? Do you know how much poverty is in the countryside?
No, you tell me.
Maybe we should come here and sugarcoat as if things are all okay.
Why as a party haven't you revolted and said we do not deserve to continue leading this country?
We don't need to revolt. It's
the
process. We don't need to revolt. We have accepted that maybe we can transit through this level to another level, but as a country and as a system. But it seems that maybe something is hidden there. But let me actually go to the other point of State House, where meetings are in State House.
You don't use my examples to skirt the point.
No, I'm not
the point is, for as long as the fusion benefited the party, you were comfortable. Now that you are in the side that is not benefiting from that fusion, you find yourself at a disadvantage.
You see,
and
the fusion is still there. I'm not saying that the fusion is not there. The fusion is still there. But the whole thing here, the contestation, the internal contestation, is that this party should stand on its own, which in my opinion, those who have levied the fee, maybe that is the process. But we are actually questioning the motive behind levying that too much. But I want to tell you, the NRM party exists, and it is struggling also to get out of the state, outside the state. As an entity, it has too. But of course, all these challenges you are seeing are actually challenges of a political party that is emerging out of a state that has existed, using it as a legitimatizing agent for the last 30 years. So that contradiction, in my opinion, if we could hold it, if we could handle it carefully, we are actually going to have the state exist and then have the party emerge, because it's also going to emerge as a young party.
From our topic, you emerge out of this process and the country benefits in the overall. Is that your suggestion?
Yes, we have to remain intact as a country. We shouldn't actually break the entire state structure simply because there are some fightings within NRM.
Chris, the most complicated surgery is separating CMS twins conjoined at the heart.
You know why I have refused to dance to a new song by the new forces within NRM is that what they call a new song is an old song that was sung by Kizza Besigye, by Muntu. To them, because they didn't want, they closed their ears to the song. Now when they open it, they think it's a new song. So they are dancing to things we have already danced before.
Sure.
So there's no new song. Whether the NRM is the state, that song was sung by many people. But they chose to close their ears.
But don't you think, Chris, that a contestation, because I see two things. Listening to statements coming out of Chadondo over the last few days, you realize that at long last, the NRM is beginning to speak as a political party independent of the state. When Tango Doi says the caucus process is not provided for within the structures of the party. So as far as we're concerned as a party, we have no sole candidate. He says, as far as we're concerned as a party, I also saw former colleague Rogers Mulindwa. He's been speaking and saying that is a police process. For us as a party, we have our internal processes. Then the party electoral commission and the national electoral commission appearing at least to act independent of one another. You think that finally when they are designing regulations...
But I think I told you that this has been a cockfight in NRM. At the end of the day, even the winning cock will first be panting after the battle. So this is what's going on in NRM. So whatever they are doing is within what I talked in the first quarter. But when you are comparing FDC, cohesion, and NRM, you must appreciate that the FDC cause, the opposition cause, has always been to dismantle what they call the fusion between the state and the NRM party. So there is nothing much to dwell on whether FDC, and I talked last time, that FDC is the only party where you can have 15 potential party presidents. And I named them here. I've told you, without the two, Besigye and Muntu, there is Nandala, there is Regan Okumu, veteran politician. You get the point? And across the country, by the way, you can find an FDC potential presidential leader in Buganda, in the West, in the North, in the East. That should be remarkable. We can't wash that away. But I can tell you, you might find a difficulty to find a potential leader, presidential material for NRM, from Teso, from North, from West Nile. So the rest, there is an alpha male in NRM.
Has more than 100.
Now, if you're bringing the contest now, which is happening, there is one picture I want people to understand. We talked about funding, and I'll over my dead body, I will keep saying, if you are fighting NRM for the fees they are levying, you are anti-democratic progress. Indirectly, you are telling FDC members don't also pay to your party. I know civil society activists in this country who sometimes spend 3 months without pay. Why? Because their donor has not sent money. And yet their mission is to help this country. If the civil society activists were being funded by Ugandan citizens to address the Ugandan problems, they would be excited to do their job.
But I think, Chris, where I would understand what Dennis is saying is that NRM has positioned itself as a mass party that acknowledges that a majority of its membership are wallowing in poverty. That if you use the money, you levy the fees, the principle might be good.
Yes.
But
fine.
You need to look at
that one you can tell to somebody who has not been critical in Uganda. That applies to the FDC support base, not the NRM support base. I am an investigative journalist throughout my life, and I know the mess in the districts, in the villages, was perpetrated by the NRM councillors. They own contracts. They make money. They have no moral authority to say they are poor. Because once the citizens are lacking, they benefit.
But these are not
if you talk about...
These are aspirants.
I'm telling you,
there's a
most
difference
of them,
between a
yes,
councillor
and
the district and an aspirant.
Hold on, if a citizen who supports FDC wants to see Muntu do miracles and is not willing to support Muntu, go to NRM. We want a citizenry that takes charge of the process. And you cannot take charge of the process if you don't have a stake. That's your commitment.
Why don't you sell cards?
The amount, the design. If you think NRM is charging you for this, why don't you join BSG?
No.
Why do you still want to quarrel while in NRM? No. That's why I disagree with them.
And why are you forcing me to join BSG?
But the point is, Charles,
why are you forcing
the disagreement
also, yes.
the disagreement here, what you must place into context, and this is a message for Ugandans, what you have been discussing as the oil cars in Uganda is manifesting in NRM. For you are waiting, and the signals are already there. The fight in NRM, deeply in my thinking, is a fight over oil. Recently, the president says, you have seen my oil. My oil. That means, who is he referring to once his oil? That means there could have been oil deals already gone. And that is the case we're talking about. Who is trying to give dubious oil deals? Is it Museveni? Is it Mbabazi? There must be an answer.
Wait for that.
There's also an element, and this is today, I come from a Christian and conservative traditional background. There has been a crisis, there was a fight here. For me, who has been an advocate of certain values, family values, there was a law that was called anti-homosexuality law. It was shelved, it was what? It is going to become a fundamental issue in this NRM contest. And if you're a church person, if you're a traditionalist like me, and you're taking this fight on face value, after 2016, you may discover that the only cherished family value is gone.
Okay.
The Christian value is gone. So you better be aware. The oil cars is
let's have Francis come in. The broad impact on the general election of these contestations, and we need not to limit them just to FDC NRM, because there are contestations going on in the Uganda People's Congress, in the Democratic Party, in the Justice Forum Party, in the Conservative Party, in the People's Progressive Party, in these other outfits out there. And there is a candidate who seems to have been forgotten so quickly after declaring that he would be running, Professor Venantius Mariamreva.
And even another brigadier, another colonel.
Brigadier Biraro.
You see, what Ugandans need to appreciate is that we are not just fighting for state power. We are not just looking for... Because some Ugandans want to suggest that, you see, you go through an election and then win and then become a president of Uganda. Under the circumstances, it is not possible. Under the circumstances, Uganda is owned by individuals. Now, these individuals don't want to let it go. And any effort towards actually contesting, like you see the NRM people fighting, somebody saying, why do you want my thing? Why do you want my oil? Why do you want my power? Now, until we dismantle that, whether it is Mbabazi, whether it is BSG, whether it is Muntu, we are not heading anywhere. And that's why I go the activism way. That people must be powerful first. And then...
Be strong.
Yes, and when you're strong, when you get your power, then the others, whether it is Muntu or BSG or Mbabazi, anybody can come and be president, and then you have a prosperous country. But what is happening now, and of course, the reason in FDC, once you become a president of Uganda, and you are a party president, you lose that. You cannot be a party chairman or a party president and then the president of Uganda. No. Because we're already looking at that. And that's what is happening. That's the problem they are getting in NRM, that you have a president who's also a party chairman. That it is not good to be a secretary general and be a prime minister, but it is good to be a party president and be a party chairman. Now, that is where the fusion is. So if you want to sort out the fusion in NRM, why don't you start by saying you'll not be a party chairman and be a president of Uganda? Why don't you start there?
Thank you. Thank you, Francis. Just one last question to, one last comment from Dennis. Will you be happy if, like has happened in previous contestations, that the party chairman announces, announcing a waiver for these nomination fees? Will you be happy?
You see, no. The fees should be there, but it has to be really within the range of the very people you are targeting.
So
Me,
councillors
really
should pay about how
support
much?
No, I support the party. For example, when you look at, I think it is, I don't want to set a fee, but it should be really within. Because
what is within?
No, it has. Let me actually let me stop. I beg.
So
that
a presidential candidate should pay 500,000.
Not 500,000. Even if
a million shillings.
At least 5 million.
At least 5 million.
At least 5.
And a member of parliament, 200,000.
No, not 200. At least 0.5. Then a councillor, 50,000.
50,000.
Yeah, I would.
You said you didn't want to set a
no, I never. But you have pressed me to the wall to you have actually extracted that out of
gentlemen, our time is out to get out of here.
And I had actually to give my
A councillor
opinion.
earns 50,000. So why should you ask a councillor who earns 50,000 to pay 200
in 5 years? What is wrong with that?
You know,
But that's
why is a member of parliament
not an automatic
why is a member
councillor
of
that is going
parliament
to
a member of parliament who earns 20 million?
But you see,
Why are you not asking him
but you see,
to pay 50
but you see,
million?
Francis,
Because you see, no, just hold on.
the
Just hold on.
NRM thing,
Yes.
this is how it's to benefit you.
Yes,
The FDC, cognizant of that fact,
yes,
has set its fees appropriately.
yes.
I don't see how this NRM jostling, if somebody believes that the NRM treat them unfairly,
Yes.
there are two options. Go to FDC, which is treating you fairly, or still stand as an independent.
But Mr.
The NRM fees do not diminish your aspirations.
Mr. Boy, you must be behind this tormenting.
No, hold on.
Gentlemen,
You must be behind so that
I believe in
you
this.
harvest for FDC.
If you
No,
don't,
no,
Gentlemen,
no,
our
you
time
must-
is out.
if you don't
Francis,
want to be NRM,
Francis,
you don't want to be NRM,
go to
you have
FDC.
you have a forum. Actually,
You also can
FDC
become an independent.
This is not just a party; it's a forum of democrats.
NRM is
Gentlemen,
has
it's
a history.
It's called a forum of
Our time
democrats.
is out.
Why
Why
not the
don't-
history of
why don't you
liberation
stand as an
and we are attached
independent
to it?
than crying here,
With
oh,
full
NRM
conviction.
fees are high? That's propaganda.
No, it's not.
NRM fees don't stop you
You
from
must
standing.
be behind this.
The
thing.
bus,
How?
the bus reaches the
Disorganize the
stage.
party.
The bus reaches
You are
the
a
stage. If
suspect.
you don't have enough money to get onto the bus, you
Use a
just hop
taxi.
off. Use a taxi.
Use a taxi.
Who is
Or
the
walk. Or
suspect?
take a
Oh, walk.
border.
You cannot
Our time is out.
you cannot continue saying
Our time
NRM
is
is
out.
unfair.
And
No, no,
fair,
no,
and
no.
you're
No,
there.
no, it's not
Thank
unfair.
you very much.
And how many people are pulled out of
but we are
NRM because of
discussing.
fees?
We are discussing.
No, that's a
Gentlemen,
small
You
argument.
must be behind
Chris.
this.
No.
Chris,
I am
to
saying,
disorganize
Charles,
Chris, can I take charge of the show?
Please,
Please.
Yes,
Francis,
Sorry,
please hold it,
sorry,
hold
but
it,
what I'm
hold it
saying
there.
is, if NRM has become a party of businessmen, come out.
No, it has
Thank
not.
you very much. Hold
And
it.
it
Why are you
hold it
crying
there.
has
within?
not. It
Dennis,
is not
thank-
crying.
Dennis, thank you so much
NRM
for
is
making
sure
time for the
that
show.
they will still remain their
Thank you very
support.
much.
I thought we were discussing.
Yeah.
Gentlemen, can we end the market? Thank you very much to all our viewers for joining us tonight. Do join us again next Sunday.
Dennis, that point is weak.
Right here on the Fourth Estate. From me, have a good night.